welcome to the channel. Enjoy a variety of live streams every Sunday, as well as regular uploads sprinkled throughout the week. Hold on to your butts, it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Hello everybody, welcome back to CyberDan and CyberChat Sunday. We are back, and even though we had a few 1 or 2 weeks, I believe, where we did not have a CyberChat Sunday, is by and large only because of the cold that I had contracted over the Christmas break, and if you can't tell already, my voice is a little shot, but I've almost fully recovered, so I thought this is a good way to come back. I did upload an episode of my third run of Mass Effect yesterday, and so I hope you guys check that out too. So it's not actually my first video of 2023, this one. But good, it's something I wanted to do. So, yeah, let's get started. We're going to talk Terminator. Bleh. The magic of doing things live. I mess up constantly. Today, we're going to be talking Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Now, I don't know this one as well as the first Terminator, or the Terminator, 1984, but I still know it very well. I've seen this movie. I mean, if saw the other one hundreds of times, I've seen this T2 at least a few hundred times. And I'm not taking anything away from the movie. I do believe it is a masterpiece of cinema, as well as I believe the first one as well falls under that category. They're both great in their own rights. I feel like Terminator 2 is more of an action movie, and the first one is more of a horror movie. That's a controversial statement to a lot of people. Now, the first Terminator, even though a lot of people say, oh, that's just pure action, I don't feel like a lot of people look at it as a horror because of just the history that the Terminator movies have had. Like most of them, if not almost all of them, have nothing but action elements, and there's no like real fear factor to it. But I like to consider that from 2 forward, you only saw Terminator versus Terminator as far as the protector and villain in the series. And like with T2, you have the T101 or the T800 model protecting John, and the T1000 going after John, trying to terminate him. And then T3, we had the TX going after John, or John roughly. He was actually going after she was going after Cape Rooster. But anyway, and then of course another T800 model is protecting them. And then it keeps going throughout that along that format throughout the rest of the series, except for Terminator Salvation. That was a little bit something different, and I appreciated that. I mean, Terminator Salvation was at times a jumbled mess, but they tried something different, and I do appreciate that. And then, so let's get back to T2, or I should say, oh, I guess what I was getting at was in the first Terminator, you had human versus machine, and there was like no like metal on metal violence going on, if you want to put it that way. And that's where the fear was instilled in me, at least. When I first saw the movie, like ages ago, I did not think past, like, I didn't look forward ahead towards, like, oh, another Terminator movie is going to come out and it's going to be machine versus machine. I was like, oh, crap. How can a human hope to, like, compete against a machine that it literally cannot stop? It's programmed to do something. It's going to do it unless it's destroyed. And how the hell are you going to do that? So I thought that was like pretty much created the horror factor. So yeah, we move on to T2, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And it starts off, it has like a... sorry, caught myself a little bit. We start off with the credit sequence. It's like an opening sequence where you like see different visuals of like there's like traffic. It's pretty much just the movie showing us like aspects of our reality and of society, of the world pre Skynet, and then it moves directly from, it like transitions directly from that to Skynet. Or not Skynet, to the future war. Now, it's a little bit more in detail, and of course you could tell right away that the budget shot up from the first movie. You could tell like from a mile away that the CGI elements and even like the forefront animatronics were basically they were paid for handsomely. And you see like you'll see the T-800 models and like the hunter killers aerial machines. You'll see a bunch of like the different Skynet technology fighting against the humans in a like a battlefield of instead of rubble on the ground, you see like it's human skulls and tanks rolling over bones of the formerly deceased, of course. But anyway, it gives you a good idea of like where the world goes after Skynet took over. So pretty much it goes right into another transition, right into John Connor, the future John Connor, Sarah's little boy, not little anymore. It shows him like surveying the carnage basically, and you get to see him like he has those battle scars on his face, and during this entire sequence you hear Sarah talking. It's pretty much a narration of laying out what the hell happened after Skynet became self-aware, and yeah, it lays out the plot of the upcoming plot of the movie. We go from that to the title card basically, and we see the introduction to the T-800, the T-101. So it's like the T-800 model, but it's slightly upgraded or updated. Who knows if they actually upgraded it or not? They never do just explore that. But it's still played by Arnie. Apparently, all the T-800s are modeled after Arnold Schwarzenegger. So it was nice to see him back. And it only makes sense, right? They come off of an assembly line. And so, pretty much you go through the same rotation as the first movie, or the same routine. He's looking for clothes. He wants to find a vehicle. Goes into a bar where he has a little scuffle, if you want to put it that way, with some of the locals. While he's in the nude, and is not a nude bar. But you get to see him doing his scan of like all the people, and trying to find out if anybody matches his size, basically, in clothing. Gets his match, takes out some of the locals in a pretty brutal way, and he has a brief interaction with the bartender or the bar owner, who pulls a shotgun on him, but doesn't get very far. He grabs the T-800, grabs the shotgun and his sunglasses, and we get that iconic shot of the T-800 putting on the shades and riding off on a motorcycle. So that was his introduction, and then we get to see who is sent, what also is sent from the future, and that would be the T-1000, played by Robert Patrick. He is a, I don't really remember Robert Patrick from many things before this. In fact, if it's his first performance, I wouldn't be surprised. But he was stellar, no doubt about it. Now, I do remember he was in the X-Files, towards the later seasons. But he very quickly disposes of a police officer, again in the nude, because Terminator, future science, right? And then he takes out a police officer, grabs his gun, gets his clothes. I guess they never really show you pick up his clothes, so I guess you could see it. I guess that's a little bit of their subtle way of showing that he doesn't really need the clothes, and you'll see why. You'll know why. I mean, anyone who's seen the movie knows exactly what happens. Robert Patrick, or the T-1000, does a quick police scan on their computer in their patrol car to find John Connor, his place of residence. And we all know who John Connor is now from the first movie. Is going to be pretty important, to say the least. And those two introductions to two of probably the biggest, most well-known characters from the Terminator series, I would say. They were handled just perfectly, I thought. Short, quick to the point, and I loved it. And then you get moving on. We finally get to see John. He quite the rebel, He has his step parents. They are kind of, I don't want to say estranged. No, they don't have a relationship that is worth striving for. I mean, you get that right away, because John's Todd, John's stepfather, he quickly tells him that what he thinks of his stepmom. So, yeah, it was already a rocky relationship, and we quickly find out why is because and why he has step-parents in the first place, because after the first movie, or in between the two, we find out that Sarah was arrested and put in what used to be known as a insane asylum. It's I guess that's not really politically correct today, but I'm just going to have to say it because it's the only way you can really describe it. It's a mental health ward. And I guess it's better than prison in a lot of ways, or maybe not. I personally have been, was in a mental facility back when I was 14 years old. It's not fun. It's, I can't imagine prison being too much better, but I digress. Sarah is locked up, and it was because she had taken out, or at least tried to. I don't remember if John said that she succeeded or not, but apparently she took out a computer factory. I don't know if she knew if that specifically was Skynet or if they were tied to Skynet, but either way, she blew it up, got arrested, got shot, and was sent to the Pescadero mental ward. And yeah, she's still completely sane, of course, but she's there because she told the authorities that a Terminator tried to kill her, which it did. And there's another one that's going to be sent, and it's going to go after John. She doesn't know that specifically, but she knows he's in danger. She has that like mother's mentality, and so we move on. And yeah, she has a little feud with Dr. Silverman, who is the person in charge of the clinic. And yeah, I believe at one point she stabbed him in the knee. Like it was, of course, happened before the movie even takes place. But it's a interesting conflict, a little bit of back and forth from them. And he's very determined on keeping her institutionalized. Even when she says that, like, exactly what he wants to hear, but he knows that she's smart enough to connect the dots, you know? And so she's stuck in there. Eventually we see John and one of his friends. I keep forgetting the friend's name. I don't think it is even brought up once in the film. But it does say there at some point. I think it was in the credits, maybe. Either way, not too important because he's only in about like 5-10 minutes in the movie at most. But he and his friend go to the Galleria in Los Angeles to play some arcade games, like good stuff. He plays something similar to, I would say, I know it's an actual video game in reality. I never played it myself, but it gave me a lot of vibes of there was one that was like a visual spy hunter style game. And then there was one that looked a lot like it was an NES game, but it was like where you shoot missiles before they impact the ground or whatever. I had forgotten that game was actually real. And didn't realize it until like a few years after the movie came out. So, of course, it came out in the 90s. I never did look up the video game, but anyway, that's beside the topic. That's where the big conflict or first introduction of the three main characters happens. And we see John gets tipped off by his friend that there's a cop after him. They had absolutely no idea what like his intentions are at the moment. But we quickly find out because the T-1000 will pursue John into the back hallways and like the employee lounge area. Anyway, they get John reaches a point where he almost bumps heads with the T-800, who has also made his way to the same location. And they are basically the T-800's at one end of the hallway, T-1000's at the other end, and John is smack dab in the middle. And yeah, we finally get to see where people are aligned. And you see the T-800 draw a shotgun from a box of roses, which is amazing because the song that John was listening to on the way to the Galleria was sung by Guns N' Roses. Subtle nod, but they never do mention the band's name. But it's a cool tie-in. And then, so yeah, the T-800 draws the shotgun, aims directly down at John's head, or so we think. And then the T-1000 pulls out his pistol that he took from the cop and draws it right back at him. And the moment that the T-800 says, "Get down," always stood out to me as like one of the most iconic, like, holy crap moments in cinematic history, because back then nobody really knew. Nobody had an idea of like whose side he was really going to be on. I mean, he was the bad guy in the first movie, right? And so that was the thing. And so yeah, there was a lot of there's a lot of information thrown at you at the same time, like in this movie. But I mean, they do it in such a good way, in almost a perfect way. You see, like, the Terminator takes a shot as soon as John gets down. Like, almost a split second later, he takes that shot, and you see like where the shotgun blast and the shell hits the T-1000. And people immediately get to see like, okay, what the hell is this guy doing? And you see like the metal, basically the slug or the shell left an impact, and you can see the metal part on the T-1000. It's basically completely exposed. You see a giant silver disc where that shell hit him, and like it's hilarious how like amazing this scene like panned out, because you see like of course, immediately after, the T-800 will grab John, spin around, which is the best thing he could have done, because he unloads on the T-800. This one shot from the shotgun did not even... It just like slowed down the T-1000 just for like a split second. But then he starts unloading with his pistol. All the bullets hit him in the back. the T800. And so yeah, if like 1 split second difference there, and John's Swiss cheese basically. The T800 will knocks over a door, throws John inside. Well, he stays there for just a few seconds there, while the T800 spins around and unloads the rest of the shells right into the T1000. I love how they framed that entire scene. You get to see like the basically the anatomy of the T1000 is just I really haven't seen anything like this in a movie before, like before 91 or 92. But the way they like framed everything, and then like even though the CGI wasn't really like up to par with things we see today, it's pretty cool that you could see like how like when the T1000's getting up, there's like you can see that CGI effect of the metal reabsorbing into his body, and we quickly find out that it's not like a normal machine, and you kind of get that impression when you see the shell markings after he's being shot. Like this isn't like a normal machine, but we find out that it's actually liquid metal. It's described by Arnold in about 2 or 3 scenes later with John, with some brief exposition, but it's pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts. Then we get to a brief another scuffle, but this time between the T800 and the T1000. Not fisticuffs really, but they grab each other, like collar to collar basically, and start shoving each other into walls. Now, I love how they do this. I don't know exactly like how they I know that the walls were like positioned in a way, or like structured in a way that they were easy to break through. I mean, it wasn't really just drywall or anything like that. One part might have been, but I would have to look up the behind the scenes stuff to find out more specifics about it. But it was definitely not like complete CGI. You know, I'm sure an element of it was, but when they're shoving each other into these walls, they pretty much are taking it out completely, just back and forth, and then eventually like the lesser wall does not last, and they both go through it and back into the Galleria, where the T1000 quickly disposes of the T800. Shoves him through a plain glass window, one of those display case windows, and all the people are all watching on and taking their pictures. Classic California, you see like a lot of people, a lot of tourists, and they're all taking pictures of the T800 slowly getting back up, shaking off the glass basically. And that always cracked me up, because you see the one guy with this camera looking like it's really funny. We see it the first time at least. And then another pursuit takes place. You see the T1000 is basically doesn't skip leg day, I guess you could say, because he sprints after John. John gets on has his motorbike, but not fast. Well, it doesn't start off fast enough to get away from him, because you see the T1000 very closely closing ground. But yeah, they get into like it's a pretty long pursuit. Like the scene takes about, I want to say about 5 to 10 minutes long. I don't have like the movie out right down in front of me, but it's extensive. It goes on for a little bit because the T1000 gets another one of those not tanks, trucks, very similar to the one from the end of the first movie. And yeah, so he decides like, oh, I don't want to run this whole way, so let's get a truck. And yeah, they like, I think the T-1000 chases him into I don't know exactly what it would be called, but it's like there's a water reservoir and it's basically a tunnel chase if you want to look at it in a simplistic way. But like John can get in there pretty easily. He's on the motorbike and he like goes straight through a tunnel, and like he stops. Like he figures, oh, I guess I lost him, but that truck takes out a bridge, like right like at the edge of the bridge. Basically, he like takes out the entire thing and lands pretty much right behind John. And they get into another chase. The T-800 is he slowly makes his way out of the Galleria. It cuts back and forth between the two, but he has his motorcycle still, so that he chooses to pursue. I mean, what other option does he have? He's a Terminator. He's gonna go do what he's programmed to do, right? And that leads to the T-800 finding his way into the tunnel. And like he when he makes a jump onto, like, from a ramp into the tunnel itself, you could totally tell that it's a stunt double, but it's something you can overlook these days. I mean, people who watched it back then are like were a little bit like iffy about it. They were just looking at it like, that looks a little funny. But now, you look at it now and you're like, you just ignore it completely. It's a cool stunt. And I think there are some people that even fixed it in fan videos, which I thought was funny. I mean, it's nice to have that option. But anyway, the pursuit keeps going. Like the Terminator in the T-101 comes up from the rear, tries to get past the big truck, and every time he would like try to cut in from the left, the big truck would or the T-1000 driving the big truck would cut him off completely. Then right, then left, then right, and finally the T-800 gets through. I think it was on the right side, and it's pretty nuts. It's a cool little sequence where John is about to get like straight up squashed by this truck. He even gets like hit in I think the back tire gets hit a few times, but the T-800 is able to grab John, pull him off his own bike onto the T-800's bike, and after a few more shots with the shotgun to the tire of I believe it's the left front tire of the truck the T-1000's driving, and yeah, like I guess he shot at the brakes too, or maybe he just got hit in passing, I don't know, but yeah, that really screws up the T-1000's truck and crashes into the center point of the reservoir, where it like splits off into two different tunnels, and yeah, it like blows up. I mean, of course, in reality, I don't think that would that kind of massive explosion would like the fuel leak to the explosion. I don't think it would happen that fast, but it was still a cool effect. I mean, it's an action movie. You kind of like overlook that kind of stuff in the moment. And so the T-1000 blows up like I just said, and the T-800 looks back, pulls a shotgun, just in case. A flaming wheel just starts to roll out, and so the T-800 and John speed off. We get to see the T-1000 shortly, probably a few seconds later. He emerges from the wreckage. A very Terminator 1 only that was at the very end of the movie. Only the T-1000 is basically Silver Surfer. If you guys have seen that Fantastic Four movie. And he's full on silver, basically. And you can see that he's made of liquid metal. He quickly forms back into the Robert Patrick visual. And we move on to basically a lot of exposition, some exposition dumping, but it's necessary in this case. I feel like we see that the T-800 and John have like an interaction, which they have a lot of interactions throughout the movie, and that comes to that only benefits the story because we quickly find out that John is adapting, even though the Terminator is adapting to the reality of humans. John's adapting to the Terminator in a way that he sees him as kind of like a father figure. He's Kyle Reese isn't around, and he never even got to meet him, so it's like the best he could do. It makes the movie that or the ending that much more tragic. But you guys will see that. You would see that in the video I made before, the real tragedy of Terminator 2. I'll probably put a link in the description somewhere of this edited stream. But yeah, Terminator, the T-800 gives him a rundown of what's going on, what he is, and what he's there to do. He tells John about the T-1000. Mimetic polyalloy is the words he uses. I don't think Arnold has ever used those words before that day. And rightfully so. I mean, I wouldn't. So yeah, we get to see the T-1000. I mean, of course, it's not really on camera, but he takes out John's foster mom, Janelle, and then he takes out T-1000 takes out the dad as well, or the foster dad, in a much more visual and effed up way. All this while being on the phone with not with John, but with the T-800 using John's voice. It has that same kind of software built into the T-800 that was in the first movie. Only in the first movie, he was impersonating Sarah's mom to get Sarah's location. In this, he's talking to the T-1000, who's impersonating Janelle. A lot to keep up with, but she or the T-800 tricks the T-1000 in a way by giving him the John's dog's he finds out what's John's dog's real name, which is Max, and gives the T-1000 a false name. Says, "How's Wolfie? Is he okay? I hear him barking." And we hear T-1000 acknowledge and say, "Oh, Wolfie's fine." Right off the bat, T-800 hangs up. Your foster parents are dead, And that's a good assumption. We never see Janelle actually die, but we saw Todd. Got milk, you know? So it pretty much leads to a point where John and the T-800 are talking about, like, I guess John's getting a little philosophical with him. Terminator's just looking out, like, just looking around, scanning the environment, making sure everything's safe, while John's unloading his emotional feelings and stuff. And then we get to John finding out that basically the Terminator has to listen to anything he commands him to do. Commands him to help him get Sarah out of the mental ward. And, like, of course, the Terminator, I guess you would say reluctantly does it. He looks reluctant. But you can see he does mention that it's not really a priority of the mission to protect John, but John takes priority for that. Eventually we get to the point where they go to the hospital. Sarah's already trying to break out at this point, like probably her 100th breakout attempt since she was admitted. The T-1000's after her too now, trying to pull the same thing the T-800 did in the first movie. Kill her, get information, and get the, like, necessary details, and probably her take her physical form, get to John. Never really succeeds because they get Sarah out in a amazing sequence. I mean, this is maybe my second favorite scene of the movie, when the T-800's taking out a lot of the hospital staff, and Dr. Silverman's watching on with I think it's Silverman, actually. I'd have to look that up. But he's watching in complete shock, traumatized for sure. And the T-1000 morphs, or I don't know if you would say morph, but he walks through a gate, liquid and all, just getting straight through the bars and reforming on the other side. You see, like, he tries to get through right away, but you see that his gun gets lodged. He didn't really notice it until, like, it hit the cling, hit the bars. But anyway, he just turns the gun a little bit, shifts, pulls it out. Anyway, that's when the pursuit again begins. A lot of these pursuits in the movie, it's very much like Total Recall in the like the remake of Total Recall, where, like, a lot of chases are happening, but in this movie it makes a lot more sense. And so yeah, we get to the parking garage of the medical facility. A police car pulls up. Arnold, or T-800, Sarah and John quickly commandeer it, and they bolt out of there immediately, while the T-1000 gives his super jogging another go. This time he doesn't find a car to meet up with them. So yeah, he gets really close after, like, Sarah and the T-101, they are both unloading on the T-1000 consecutively while in this pursuit. Like, they're backing up the police car while the T-1000 is just sprinting towards them. Then we get to like they get outside. The police car takes some heavy hits, but it breaks down a gate, and they peel out. The three protagonists, I should say, make a break for it. They go drive down the street. The T-1000 comes within a hair of killing John. He uses two, basically he turns his arms into two metal, I guess you would say crowbars without a better way of saying it. I mean, he latches onto the bumper of their vehicle, climbs his way forward to the back of the car, to the rear window, this part I would have been a little bit more, I guess it's a nitpick, but I would have been a little bit more satisfied if John was sitting in the front seat. I think that would have been a smarter way. I mean, for the movie, it's fine, but it would have been smarter if they put John in the front seat if he was the actual guy you gotta protect, but they never knew the T-1000 was gonna claw into the back, so I guess not a big deal. But anyway, starts swinging his crowbar arms. The metal breaks the rear glass, and John ducks immediately, which again smart, but a hair away from having his head taken off by the metal arm. The T-101 pulls his shotgun, blows a giant chunk of the metal arm, the part holding him attached to the police trunk of the vehicle, and that part goes flying. The small piece that was attached, and then he shoots the T-1000 once more. I think it was in the chest, maybe in the arm, the shoulder there, but it was enough to knock him off. You see that, I guess one of the first few times you get to see it, might be the first time you get to see it. The T-1000 walks up and reabsorbs that metal piece into his foot, and we get a better idea of what how the liquid metal works. So of course I wouldn't want to go through every little bit of the movie because that would take probably 2.5 hours, if not more. But the three main our three heroes, basically they keep driving. They stop at a auto facility. I think it's a repair shop, and there are some cut scenes from the movie that I thought were really cool. You get to see there's a part where the T-800's CPU is removed, and you can see it for the first time. But there's a short little part where Sarah wants to destroy it. She has some vengeance to work out in her system, but John stops her. Anyway, that's all a cut scene. That was never in the theatrical cut, but it was still interesting. I mean, I liked it. But anyway, in the actual movie, in the theatrical cut, and I think in director's cut too as well, basically they just clean up their wounds, remove those slugs from the T-800's body. He talks to them about how he processes pain, or processes what could be described as pain, and kind of humanizes the T-800 a lot in this scene. And we get to all the while the T-1000 is just trying to track them down. I mean, very much T-800 in the first movie. The three main characters, three heroes, as I keep calling them, they go down to Mexico, where Sarah has some allies, some of her family, basically, unofficial family. You know, they stay in their stay in that region for a little bit. I think pretty much they are using that area and their resources to stock up and get ready for what ends up being the final confrontation. They don't know that, but that's that's something that they had to do one way or the other anyway. So we get more of the drama and humanizing of the Terminator as he talks to John about human nature, while they're repairing a truck for themselves to use. Terminator asks John why humans cry. And it's a pretty emotional scene. I like how Edward Furlong, the man who plays John, he really describes it well, and his you could tell he has a strong emotional connection with his mom, and how he misses, even though he never had a dad, an official dad, he always wishes he had. And it gets pretty intense, emotional. And Sarah, she wants to know everything about Skynet, so when she finds out that there is the guy who pretty much is the reason for Skynet, the guy who helped CyberDan manufacture the machines, of course in the future, and she finds out who he is, where he lives. And even though that isn't a red flag for John or the Terminator, I'm surprised the Terminator didn't pick up on it right away. But her intentions were always from the beginning, go after this guy and stop the future before it happens, or the bad future. So she finds out it's Miles Dyson. Finds out where he lives, takes I think it was the station wagon was the vehicle she took, along with a bunch of guns and all this badass gear and everything. And she goes solo. She doesn't want John to be any part of it. She has there's a good impression of how how it's going to go down. She was shot once before and arrested to put in that medical the mental ward, where she doesn't want John to suffer the same fate, but she did want to stop a almost inevitable future from taking place. And so Dyson is just having a nice night with his family, and he sits down to work after a brief chat with his wife, Danny, his son. We get to see again in Genesis. Let's not talk about that. He's riding around his little RC car around the house. And for those who don't know, that's just a little remote control car. Anyway, it ends up being a saving grace for Miles, because right before Sarah shoots him in the head from a distance, it's like from the opposite side of his outside pool. Like you see a little red dot travel onto his head from her gun, from her sights, and Danny's car runs right into Miles' foot. A split second before she takes that shot, he goes like Dyson goes straight down to grab the car. He's like, Danny, and then Sarah realizes that, oh, okay, so I missed the shot, so she says, screw it, this isn't going to be like a silent assassin kind of thing. And she just goes straight forward and ends up shooting Dyson in the arm, in the shoulder. Dyson falls down. His family is basically covering him. In like the only way they know how to protect him. Yeah, it gets pretty damn intense. Sarah pulls her pistol and aims directly at Dyson or Miles, and Miles pushes his family away. Now, this kind of shows Sarah how, like, kind of, she has like an epiphany that killing Dyson in that situation, with her motives or her intentions, and how kind of like doing it in cold blood would make her just another Terminator. Like, not literally, like she's not a machine, but killing innocent human lives. I mean, he doesn't know that he's about to create something that's going to bring on a future dystopia apocalypse, basically. So yeah, the Terminator comes in with John. They've have deciphered basically what Sarah was going to do like moments before, but they catch up. John gives a little bit of a tender moment with her and with him and Sarah. They just they embrace, and like Sarah she was broken at that point. Just like having that revelation of like not having. She basically, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. She didn't want Dyson, along with like not being like the machines. She wanted Dyson's son to go any longer without, or to go without a father. Basically, what the Terminator from the first movie did for John. I mean, that's gotta mess you up, right? So yeah. Anyway, after talking to Dyson about how the how everything goes down in the future, I believe his words are, "I think I'm gonna throw up." So yeah. He doesn't throw up, thank goodness. at least on screen. And we see they set up a plan. Like, you see, like, the T-101, John, Sarah, and Miles set up a plan, and they're going to take out CyberDan all in one night, like immediately. The same night that Sarah almost killed Miles, they were going to head up CyberDan and blow the hell out of that that place. And we get a lot of like there's a lot more to the sequence, but ultimately the movie transitions right into that third act where all the main characters meet up in the same area, and the T-1000 does track them down at the CyberDan building. Like, it starts off as kind of a covert mission, basically, or they use stealth in a minuscule way, I guess. It only takes about 5 or 10 minutes for the guards to know like what the hell is going on. But they anyway, sum it up pretty quick. They set up the bombs, and then the entire police force shows up. Pretty much every police officer in the world it's pretty nuts how they how quickly they hit up CyberDan, or how quickly the police get to CyberDan. It doesn't seem like too realistic, if you want to put it that way. But yeah. Miles ends up getting mortally wounded. He gets shot several times. And he stays behind to blow up the facility, or at least the level of the facility that had all the main servers, and all the what they at least think or assume has all the Terminator records. But that's right before John and Miles grab the CPU and the ARM that were left behind from the first Terminator from 1984. That comes into play in a minute. The T-1000 catches up as the T-800 and John and Sarah narrowly make an escape and get into a truck, and like they go straight down straight out of the place, like down the street. And the T-1000 remarkably has a short segment where he rides his motorcycle upstairs. Again, can never happen. I'm very certain of that. No, I didn't try. But yeah, he sees them like going down the road, and he must be thinking like, oh shit. I tracked them down here. I went up all these stairs. A human would react that way. I know he wouldn't. But anyway, he quickly makes a quick judgment call. The T-1000 rides his motorcycle out a window of the CyberDan building. I think it was on like probably the 3rd or 4th floor. 30th floor, I don't know. But it's pretty high up, and grabs onto a helicopter. It's like, yeah, they had to one up what they did before in the Terminator from 1984. You can't be in a truck anymore. Like they already did that at the beginning of this movie. So yeah, he grabs onto the helicopter, bashes his head through the glass, and like he morphs his liquid into metal into the cockpit, scares the living bejesus out of the pilot. It says "Get out," very much like the first movie, like exactly like the first movie, and It's so good. I mean, of course, I don't think the pilot actually dies, but he jumps out while the helicopter is in flight, and yeah. So the T-1000 kind of gives, he gives a good chase, another good pursuit sequence, and it's remarkable how they shot this, because it had like, you see like the helicopter chasing like a police like a SWAT van that the three protagonists are in. You see him like going under bridges and stuff, and you see it's pretty incredible how it looks, at least visually. And yeah, so when the helicopter starts to get really close to their truck, and they're still like chasing down this freeway, Sarah puts a lot of flak jackets onto John, tells him to stay down, and grabs a assault. I believe it's a some kind of assault rifle. I'm not very good with gun titles, but it's a powered up automatic weapon, and she starts to unload on the helicopter. It starts to it hits the glass, of course, but it's not really doing any damage to the T-1000 inside. But there is a hole that is left on the front of the helicopter, like right there in the glass. I think I don't think the bullet made that hole. I think it was from the same hole that the T-1000 had bashed his head through to get into the vehicle. Anyway, he uses that hole to shoot back. He has like I believe it's an MP5 or something, or MPK, that he's able to shoot back at Sarah. Eventually, he hits Sarah in the knee or in the upper thigh. I don't remember exactly like where it hits, but it's pretty crazy. At that moment, I was like, when I first saw the movie, I was like, oh, is this it? She's going to die right here? But no, the T-800 makes a very quick decision to hit the brakes. The helicopter rams the back of the truck, and another explosion. Go figure, a million of those in this movie. Helicopter goes down, and the truck that the good guys are using, it flips out and then turns over. Can't use that anymore, and so everybody bruised, beaten, battered. Eventually they find their way, or another truck driver, normal guy, just a random guy driving along the same road, catches up to them and checks to see what's going on, to see if everybody's okay. He gets his car or his truck taken by the good guys, because they see a nitrogen truck heading straight towards them, again being driven by the T-1000. So it's you see a lot of chase sequences in the movie, but this is one of those rare ones where it's a chase sequence leads into another chase sequence. Just a theme of the movie, I guess. So yeah, they get chased, and it becomes, there are a lot of close calls. Like the T-1000 is like right on their asses. So eventually they reach a steel mill, and the T-800, T-101, gets out of the vehicle. It tells Sarah to grab the wheel, and he like makes his way back onto the nitrogen truck, like right onto the hood, and unloads an assault rifle, another automatic weapon. I can't keep saying assault rifle, but starts to unload it into the T-1000's face. In another cool visual, you see like a bunch of bullets just plastering all over the T-1000. Of course, that wasn't going to do anything in the long run, but it was a way to take away the T-1000's moment of, or he briefly was incapable of doing anything, like for a few seconds before he like got his control of his body back. So it was just long enough for the T-101 to grab the wheel of his truck, the nitrogen truck, and spin it out. It turns over. Everything like breaks basically. The liquid nitrogen comes like gushing out, while the T-101 rolls away to safety, basically. And when the nitrogen starts to spill out, all the liquid nitrogen, you get like it is a really cool way to see how what kind of visuals or what kind of look that James Cameron had for the movie, because you see like the contrast between the like the blue glossy air of the nitrogen just like spilling out in comparison to the lava or the molten steel from the steel mill. So it's like blue versus red. You like see the comparison between the two, and it's a really cool thing to look at. It really brings a lot of life to the scene. And anyway, the T-1000 slowly gets out of the car, or out of the truck, what's left of it, and he's completely frozen, like, or not completely yet, but he is. You see that what the liquid nitrogen has done to his anatomy, and it's pretty much broken into pieces, big chunks of like humanoid pieces, just frozen. And eventually, like, he slowly makes his way. Like, you see these like brief movements, but slowly over time, he's starting to get more and more frozen. Eventually, he gets to the point where he drops to his knee and stops his fall with his hand. Now, at that point, like he's struggling to get his hand back up. It's just too frozen at this point. And the T-800, Sarah and John are watching him get back, try to force his way back up. The T-800 pulls out a pistol. We get the T-1000 literally losing his arm, like it shatters, it like breaks off right at the, I believe at the elbow. And with the chalk look on its face, just staring at his arm, just gone, basically. Then it completely freezes. Like the entire T-1000 freezes completely. And the T-800 has the iconic Hasta la Vista Baby one-liner and blows the rest of the T-1000 into a million pieces, basically. 1,000 pieces or whatever. At that point, like, when you first watch the movie, you're like, okay, they did it. They win. Good guys, hooray. But of course, that's not how it's going to end. The steel mill, the heat starts to melt the ice pieces, the liquid metal ice pieces, and the T-1000 starts to reform again. And yeah, it's first time watching, I was pretty freaking terrified. Just the way the music made that scene what it was. A lot of people say, like, oh, the Hasta La Vista Baby, that's like the iconic part. I think none of it would have been nearly as good without that music, without the score. It was intense. But yeah, eventually the T-1000 fully reforms. The final pursuit begins. At one point, the T-800 fights the T-1000 after Sarah and John separate from him. The good guy and the bad guy, the Terminators, go one-on-one with each other, fisticuffs, and T-1000 gets the better of him in a big way. There's a gear mechanism that pretty much the T-1000 gets the T-101's arm stuck in, and the T-101 is forced to break off his arm with a lead pipe, using leverage, just stick it in there and break it. Anyway, that's the only way he could get out. So in the time that he had to get that lead pipe and break his way free, the T-1000 is starting to chase down, or has almost reached Sarah and John. Sarah gets John onto like a conveyor belt and like sends him on his way. Like she's just getting him out of like dangerous way. And she gets the confrontation with the T-1000 in a part that really makes me cringe every time. And it's not cringe in like a way that like the acting is bad, It's cringe because the T-1000 like sticks, like his finger turns into a metal spike, and it goes straight through her shoulder, which like I can't imagine that kind of pain. That it was just hard to look at, and he threatens her and says, like without actually saying a threat, he says, "Call to John now," while she's like wincing in agony, basically. But she just never calls him, which admirable. She's protecting her son, but it doesn't seem like it's going to get her anywhere. At least, he probably would kill her after she called anyway. But progress not being made. Anyway. Right before he sticks another metal spike from his opposite hand into her eye, or right between the eyes, maybe, T-800 shows up. He's got his lead pipe in his hand, and like in a really cool effect, like chops right down the from like the edge of the collarbone down the T-1000's torso, almost halfway down, separating his shoulder and his arm from the rest of his torso, basically. And in such a cool like I can't say it enough. The effect is amazing. Even like compared to like right before Sarah was in that scenario, in that case of danger, where she unloads a shotgun shell into T-1000's face. Like, I didn't mention that before, but it is also a pretty neat effect. Because you see like an entire, like a huge circular gap missing from the T-1000's face from that one shotgun blast, which is, again, an amazing effect, but I think it pales in comparison to the shoulder chop that the T-800 does here. Anyway, I won't get sidetracked like that again. And the T-1000 responds in kind, gives the T-800 a little beating himself as Sarah gets away, which was ultimately what the T-800 wanted to do. And yeah, the T-1000 pretty much beats the T-800 almost to destruction. He what he thought was destruction, at least, because there's go down to like a couple levels of the steel mill itself, and he uses what is almost the equivalent of a battering ram to crush the skull of the T-800, but not like completely. It does cave in his head a little bit, enough, just enough to show that like a metal exoskeleton side of his face. Like, you see the red eye like completely exposed now. Eventually, it gets to the point where all the T-101 can do is crawl, and it crawls towards where it had dropped its grenade launcher, and reaches out for it, but the T-1000's right there. He sticks a metal pipe straight through his back, like it goes through the T-800's midsection, all the way through the bars that it was laying on, and you see like electricity spew everywhere. Again, I'm sure it's not realistic. Like hitting metal on metal like that, it's not going to create lightning and stuff. Anyway, still a cool effect though. And then we get the T-1000 walks away, continue the pursuit. John starts to hear Sarah's voice calling, and a lot of people, surprisingly, that I've spoken to, didn't know at this point, didn't have like get a feeling of, I guess in retrospect, it was, you just feel like, oh, cool, that they're going to get to, Sarah's okay, so they'll reunite and then everything will be happy again. But like when you look at the movie again now, you're like, okay, well, she wasn't gonna yell his name before, but she's gonna do it now. It's like, that's not Sarah. And so like he goes to find Sarah, follow that voice, and the T-800 gets a second wind. It has a backup power cell, a backup generator. If you like, I live in New Jersey now, so I know how those work. But this is not the same kind of machine. Anyway, it boots back up, and pulls that lead pipe or the metal weapon. I think it's a lead pipe, but I'm not sure. Pulls it I think it's actually a beam because the lead pipes have like that curve at the end, but it's okay. Pulls it straight through himself, and like chucks it to the ground. Grabs his grenade launcher. In again, one of the most like insanely well shot moments I think in the entire movie. And like the music again makes that scene what it is. But yeah, at that point, John finally finds Sarah, and she is in bad shape. John walks up to her, and before he gets too close, he sees somebody come up behind her. Sarah. Yep. The Sarah that he is closest to is the T-1000 mimicking her, and yeah, he jumps out of the way after Sarah makes her presence known. The real Sarah blows a hole through the T-1000 one time with again her shotgun that she had used before to blow a hole into his eye. So the T-1000 reveals himself again. The real Sarah starts to unload, shooting one shell at a time into the T-1000, getting him to back up slowly, like step by step, like from the impact of each shot. And it looks like he's about to go backwards over into the steel mill, to the liquid metal steel, molten steel. And right before the final shot is taken, she tries to take it, and the gun's empty. In one of probably the most moments of like cinematic history, in my opinion. But anyway, that's how I reacted to it. So the T-1000 gives a little no, and he starts to approach her and John. Completely Sarah's out of shells now. There's nothing. They're pretty much screwed. And luckily they turn around and try to beat it once again, but the T-800 rolls up from one of the gear cogs, like rolling over, and so he was like coming towards them, and they drop immediately when they see that he's holding his grenade launcher. He has like the best shot, dead like center mass into the T-1000. And like you hear like a little pop sound. It's such a cool like little you don't really hear that too often, that sound effect, but it worked well here. You hear like an echo of it in the background. The T-1000 looks up in horror and blows up. Like he has limbs coming out of shooting out different places in his body, a lot of which I don't believe by anatomy's standard, like the arm would be coming out of the leg or whatever, you know what I mean. But excuse me. But yeah, when it gets like the T-800, it has blown apart the T-1000. Like it's not like in pieces or anything, but it's basically like a Cerberus. It just limbs everywhere, and even the arm is like attached to the head at one point. It falls back into the steel mill. It melts as the heroes look on. And I guess you could say it was terminated. At least that's how the T-800 describes it. And that was their victory. But there was one last task to do, and that was to destroy the materials that were left behind from the first movie, the CPU from the first Terminator, and the arm that was the only thing left of the first Terminator. So John tosses those into the mill. They are gone now. They're disposed of and non-existent. But then the kicker hits, and the T-800 says that the last CPU has to go too, and he owns that CPU. An emotional, like, heart-wrenching moment. John doesn't want him to go. They've been through pretty much hell together, and it's like the first time and only time I remember in cinema that I've actually felt like genuine emotional, like, depression about, or sadness for a machine, especially a Terminator. But anyway, the T-100 tells them that he can't self-terminate, that one of them has to do it. And so Sarah lowers him after, like, a brief goodbye to John, lowers him into the steel mill, where he basically gives his goodbye, the little thumbs up at the end there as it goes into the steel. And that pretty much sums up the movie, or ends it on that note. Sarah and John narrowly escape alive. T-100 did his job. T-1000's gone. And the, like, last few minutes of the movie are of the of like just a plain view going down a highway, and with Sarah once again narrating that, like, the future pretty much has been saved. Let's forget about the third movie and forward for just this one moment. And she says that if a Terminator can understand the value of human life, we can too. And she had her redemption arc fulfilled, and yeah, that's where the movie ends. We get the credits, good music, and that unfortunately leads into Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, and then forward. But I like to pretend like the first two movies are the ultimate canon, and that is it. Like, the acting in the movie, incredible. The actor, the direction, the cinematography was insanely good. Like, every shot was just framed perfectly, and you can't unsee it these days. It's just too good. I still like the first Terminator a little bit more, not by a lot, but it's still an amazing movie. Both movies are incredible masterpieces. James Cameron did a great job on both. You don't see movies like that anymore. And yeah, so I would love to talk to you guys in the comments. Like, I'm going to be editing this video and this episode of CyberChat Sunday. I'll upload it probably either later tonight or tomorrow. It all depends on how long the editing process will last, or how long it's going to take to render. But anyway, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed talking about T2. I would love to hear what you guys had to say about the movie. Again, sorry about my voice. The cold is almost through, but It's gonna take a while for those antibiotics to take full effect. So until then, I'll give you what I can. So yeah. Anyway, that was CyberChat Sunday. Today is the 8th of January, 2023. I'm so glad to be back. Next CyberChat Sunday, I'm not sure exactly what the subject will be yet, but I'll let you guys know at some point throughout the week or sometime before the next CyberChat Sunday. And until then, this has been CyberDan from the CyberDan channel talking about Terminator 2 Judgment Day. CyberChat Sunday has completed, and I will catch you all on the next episode of whatever I'm going to do. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good night.